But welcome everyone to the second half of our Building Healthy Competition training. The first half was really great, tons of great discussion, and we're really excited to be back with everyone today. So we're going to pick up right where we left off with some of that work that folks did between last week's training and today. But want to kick it off with as always with a little check-in. Aware of all the things that are happening in the cities and around the country. I'm sure a lot of us are having intense conversations and feeling ways about police brutality and racism and all this stuff that's happening in our communities, in addition to the stress of the pandemic. So feel free to throw a check-in in the poll or in the chat. Just like last week, we know that this space we believe and hope is a positive and predictable space for y'all, and really encourage you to be here and engage with the training. And if you're not in the space where you're able to do that, or if you need some extra support, we really encourage you to seek that. So we have, just like last week, Jack Callahan from Chicago, Ahada McCummins from North Carolina, and Jarita Mitchell from New Orleans. I'm here to check in with folks. If you need to have a conversation, step away. These folks have lots of training on having those supportive conversations. So if you need some extra safe space, some extra support today, that's a big part of why we're here for each other. So very much make that option available to yourself. As we go forward, just like last week, we always want to build our repertoire of things that help us build a safe space so that we can learn and grow. One of the great ways that sports takes advantage of that opportunity is through traditions. So we had our tradition of holding up our fingers as a check-in, just where we're at right now here, and would love to open an opportunity for anyone to suggest a new tradition so that we can all keep building our toolbox of different traditions that we can create with our coaches. So I'm going to open the floor. If anyone has a tradition that they think could be a positive tradition for us right here to do on this call, the floor is yours to suggest a positive tradition.
Actually, something just came to mind.
Yeah, let's have it, Richard.
So, as we all know, if anyone's been on a flight, obviously, they always tell you to put your, oxygen masks on first. And I think a lot of times when we're dealing with, obviously, our students and ourselves as coaches, a sort of parallel to that is just making sure that your shoes or your cleats are tied. So to make sure that you're prepared to make a step forward before you give advice or counsel to anybody. So I think a tradition that we can sort of add in is just check to see if your shoes are tied before you make a decision or before you step into somebody else's situation with words of advice or encouragement before making sure that you yourself are safe and set up.
I love that, Richard. Can I suggest that since we mostly have our faces visible, that we do that, put the mask on first? Okay. Would that be a tradition? Awesome. I got the thumbs up from Richard on that. So let's all do that before we go forward. I think that's a great way to think about going forward, and I'm going to share these poll results so we can see where we're at. But let's make sure that in all the things we do in our lives that we're prioritizing self-care. So let's on the count of 3, we'll all put our masks on first. Okay? 3, 2, 1. Put that mask on. Awesome. So now we're ready to go. Really excited for this new game that Marisol's got for us. So I'm going to kick it to her, and she can start us off.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. I'm just going to flip to this slide really quick. So, again, everything that we do is opt-in, so I just want to reiterate that here. Put your mask on first before you jump into this game, right? But so a lot of you have probably seen a lot of like fitness challenges on social media. And so this game that we've created is kind of a spin on that, our Up2Us Sports spin on that. So for the purposes of this game, we're gonna do the following rules. Each team is gonna have 8 exercises to choose from. And I'm gonna put those up in a minute. Different exercises have either 1 point assigned to them or 2 points assigned to them. We'll see that in a bit. Your goal as a team is to try to get as many points as possible by doing these exercises. Okay, so that's the gist. That's your goal. Now, in your team, you can have 2 active people at a time. And those active people can choose any exercise from this list. I'll go back to this right now. You can choose any exercise that you want to do from that list, and you're going to do as many reps of that as possible. Here we go. You're going to do as many reps of that exercise as possible. When you're tired, you're going to tap out and you're going to tap in another teammate. So I'm going to say, you know, I've done my jumping jacks, I've done 10, and I'm going to tap in Andy. And so I'm going to sit back and now Andy's going to go. He's going to choose whichever exercise he feels comfortable doing, and he's going to stop whenever he's ready to stop and tap someone else in. Now, we're all in different situations right now. We all have different spaces to work with, or like mentally and just like physically. So we have some additional roles that we can work with. One really important role is we need a point keeper. Your team needs a point keeper. This point keeper is going to use our Google form that's chatted into you right now. If someone can chat that in, you're going to use our score sheet to keep track of your team's points. For this role, this person does need a browser. So they do need to be able to access some sort of, you know, open a separate tab on their computer or something like that to keep track of these points. But we need that point keeper. And second, we need a team praiser. This is a super important role. It can be more than one person, but this person is going to just cheer on their team and praise them, give them all the TLC praise that they can. And if a trainer pops into your room and sees that or hears you being like super just outgoing and super cheering on your team, you have a chance to win 20 bonus points, 20 extra bonus points for your team. So super important roles. Here you see all of the exercises that you can choose from. While you're looking at them, go ahead and chat in what questions do you have before we break out into these teams, or unmute yourself and go ahead and ask me what questions you have about this game.
So is one mountain climber right leg, left leg?
Great question. Yes. Yes. Right leg, left leg, that's one mountain climber, and that's 2 points for your team.
I would imagine same thing for a Russian twist, left side, right side.
Left side, right side, yes.
Cool.
Are modified versions of these exercises okay?
Absolutely, yes. You can do a modified push-up. What else can we modify here?
Like standing mountain climbers,
Yes.
stepping, jumping jacks, lots of different levels of fitness.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can modify these to best suit like your space, what space you work with. Any more questions before we break out into our groups, into our teams?
What's a Russian twist?
What's a Russian twist? Thank you. I just saw that come in. So Russian twist.
I will get a YouTube video.
You're gonna send a YouTube video?
I'm gonna chat in our YouTube video.
Perfect. Andy's gonna chat in that video, but also I can kind of explain it. So if you're sitting in sit-up position, what you can do is like you will sit in that sit-up position and you will move you'll keep your body forward and you'll move your arms, just your arms, from the left side to the right side to get that twist in the core here. So you really want to just be moving that core. I'm not a fitness expert, but that's what I understand it to be. Andy just chatted in that YouTube video. If you want to click on that and watch it really quick to see what that one is.
Looks like Alex might be doing a demonstration over here.
Awesome. You can find Coach Alex. There you go. Coach Alex Penman. He is doing there you go. The example right there.
Woo!
That's a Russian twist. So 2 points every time you complete a left and right side. So as soon as you get into your groups, each round is only 5 minutes. So as soon as you get into your groups, find who is going to be the point keeper, open up that Google form, and find 2 people who are going to be the active people. All right, everyone, welcome back. As you're coming back, what are some things that we experienced during that breakout room? That was kind of like our practice breakout room. What did we experience with that one? How did that feel for you to try out these exercises? How did that feel for you to work out together as a team?
Sweaty.
Awesome.
Our group had some technical difficulties, so it was a limited ability to participate on round 1.
Okay, thank you.
Some people weren't available to participate. They were just there on the phone or they weren't home.
Okay, do we have some people cheering?
Our group did really well. We had Jerome cheering us on, and we got after it. I feel like I got a pump going now.
Okay, so we're going to try that again, because we believe in trying things twice. This time I really want to encourage us all to use our looking and listening skills. Pay attention to how we're behaving in this kind of arena, in this kind of competitive arena. Pay attention to the things we're saying and how we're feeling, okay? And it's the same thing. We'll get 5 minutes for the second round. And go.
I got to give my bonus point vote to Team 6. I don't know. I didn't get to check out all of them, but Team 6 was going at it pretty good.
Oh, wow.
Team 2 was doing really well, too.
I'm going to share my screen really quick just so we can actually see this for ourselves. I don't know if y'all can see this. But, yeah, we had Team Blueberries. Whoever Team Blueberries was, go ahead and shout out, just put a cheer in the chat or just unmute yourselves and yell if you're on Team Blueberry. With 413 points. Oh wait, Team Bananas just submitted and is ahead with 1,000 points. Then we have Blueberries, Lions, Tigers, Badgers, Hawks, Pumas, and Oranges. Awesome. So it's Team 13 with the lead. Team 13 with the lead. So those are our scores for this game. And I'm going to toss it over to Thomas for the debrief of that.
Thanks, Maisel. All right. We're coming back. We want to shake out our hands a little bit. Get your hands ready. Free them up. Thank you, Coach Kat. Thank you. Get your hands ready because you're going to respond a little bit in the chat box if you have that ability right now. So I'm going to call on folks here real quick. Just using sort of 1 or 2 words in the chat box. Give me some words that you would use to describe this game. Team Blueberries rule. Great. It's a good one. Fired up, sweaty, painful. Hopefully it's a good painful. Exhilarating. See some fun, energizing, fun. Awesome. All right. If you responded with fun, right? Why was it fun? Again, type in to the chat box. Also, feel free to unmute and share. But if you thought this was fun and sweaty and exhilarating, challenging, all those things, type in or unmute and share with us.
Can I share?
Absolutely.
Cool. I think what made it really fun for my group is we were all participating. We didn't really follow the rules with only 2 people being active. We were kind of all just active and working with each other and tapping each other in and out. So there was a lot of collaboration, which was fun.
Cool. Yeah, a lot of collaboration in this game, being able to sort of rely on your teammates. What else? I got from Coach Zach that the second round was fun because it was more organized. Coach Jennifer, the encouragement made it fun. Awesome. All these great things that came with our game of Activ8. It seemed that with this, it seemed pretty competitive, right? Would you agree? Just give me a thumbs up on the camera or a head nod. It got a little bit competitive. Maybe your teammates were pushing you a little bit more just by what they were doing. So before the game started, right, using your looking and listening skills, you'd be able to pick up on some of these things. What are some of the things that we picked on to tell us that it was competitive?
You had a score and other teams you were competing against.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Were you able to see other teams' scores, Andy, on the sheet? You were. Cool. So just like the numbers game of being able to see your numbers and their numbers as you entered them in and as they updated was something that was competitive. What else? Just like looking and listening, noticing about your teammates. What else would tell us that it got a little bit competitive?
I like Hillary was rooting me on when I was doing my squat. She was saying, "Greg, you're half my age. You gotta get this. You gotta, go for the team." So that was motivating. But it's like, all right, I gotta get it. So I brought out it was friendly competition.
Love it. Yeah, that's a good point. We had somebody who was just like our team cheerleader, our team motivator. That was something that was pretty unique with this game. So let's talk about that. With the competition, there were probably some other parts of this game that were unique compared to other activities that we would do or other games that we would play. What are some of those unique pieces of this game? What was different about this game than maybe any other activity or game that we've done?
It was kind of choose your own adventure. So for those actively doing exercises, they got to pick what the structure of their workout or their game was going to be. So in that way, they have an opportunity to sort of take control. And for people who are more shy, less exhibitionists, and people who don't necessarily want to be up in front, they have an opportunity to, be the cheerleader or be the statistician and still have a equal value to the overall team performance.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Thanks, Coach Rich. Oh, somebody else sharing here? Awesome. I think Coach Rich sort of hit it on the head right there. So not only was it active and we got people engaged, but also this game was all about choice, right? You sort of chose how you wanted to participate. You chose how active you want to be. Maybe you were somebody that was participating all the way through, but you were only doing 3 to 5 reps of something at a time, and then you passed it on to one of your teammates who was doing 100 reps of one of these activities, right? So when we were playing this game, we got 2 very, very important things, right? We were able to work on choice and inclusion in this game. And these 2 things are very, very important for when we're helping kids try and get more comfortable with the idea of competition. Remember last week when we talked about competition, everybody experiences a little bit differently because it is a form of stress. And if some kids are not willing to jump in right away, if we include choice and inclusion where we can have kids choose how they participate, this is just going to be a much easier entry into competition that will help us get the ball rolling forward and moving them on to maybe a more competitive environment that we know they're going to see later on in life or in sports. So in regular competitions, let's talk about that. In regular competition where we see it in sort of traditional sport, who ends up running around the most? Who ends up playing the most? Feel free to unmute and share or type it in the chat. Who ends up playing the most in sort of our traditional competition?
It's usually the most competent athlete. Or the most physically apt. So sometimes it's just about how big the kid is or how fast they are or how much prior experience they have with the sport over their peers. So different backgrounds coming into the same environment, and then the sort of skill or physical gaps are being exposed.
Definitely. So maybe it's the more skilled athletes, right? Or the athletes I think, Rich, you said straight out, sort of the athletes that have the most experience when it comes to this. And that's interesting to think of when we think about helping kids who are not good at competition get better at competition. The kids that usually end up playing more and participating more, whether it's running the bases more, it's usually the kids that are the more skilled players, right? The more skilled hitters, who are the kids that are on the court in sort of these crucial times or for the most amount of time. It's usually our better ball handlers, our better shooters, these people who are doing okay or pretty well in competition. And then the kids who need the work, who need the reps in competition, are actually sitting the bench for us at this time and not participating, not getting the opportunities to join in for us, right? So we want to think about this and think about how we structure different activities that we play. This was a good start to what we were talking about here. But we want to continue to think about what are the opportunities we can create in the games that we already know, or create games such as this. I don't know if anybody's done an activity like this, I know there's a bunch of them that we mentioned up front, Marisol mentioned them, but we want to start to think about the structure. How can we make sure competition is involved in what we are doing, but involved in a comfortable way for everybody, including those things such as choice and inclusion. So we'll keep the rules in mind. We'll talk about the structure a little bit later on, but we want to keep this thing going. So to do that, I think I'm going to hand it back off to Marisol.
Yeah, awesome. So like environments with choice and inclusion are so important when we're trying to help our young people really improve their competition skills, develop their skills to be able to participate in competition and succeed in competition. And so how we structure the environment is really important. And we're gonna get into that a little bit, but we're gonna go back to like, who is in the environment? Well, kids are in the environment, and we know us as coaches, we're in the environment. So let's talk a little bit about our conversation from last week. We're going to talk about us as coaches. And in order to do this, I kind of want to show you, I'm going to show you this video, and really what I'd like you to pay attention to in this video are the interactions between people and the relationships that you see. Okay, when we come back, I'm going to ask you what interactions you noticed in this video.
And there was a little bit of animation here from Coach Tom Izzo. Well, to his freshman, Aaron Henry.
You would think on a 10-0 run, Tom Izzo would be happy. Izzo now having words with the freshman, Henry, who seems a little bit perplexed. And then this is still in that same huddle here. The little lunge there by Izzo. And you see the players getting between.
Awesome. Here. So going back to that question really quick, I'm going to stop sharing. Unmute yourselves or put in the chat, what interactions did you notice in this video? Chat them in. Go ahead. He was angry. Who was angry? An irate coach, says Wade. You noticed a group huddle, Gregory. Yeah. Justin, heated, angry, confusion. Justin, can you talk a little bit more about that? Who was heated, who was angry, and who was confused? Or if anyone else who said angry, if we can also talk about who, how you noticed that they were angry. What were they doing? What was their behavior like that made you notice that they were angry?
I'll go. So you can see the coach kind of leaning in. And he looked as if his facial expressions was really like hostile towards the player, and then you can kind of see the players jumping in. So clearly that just kind of showed that at the time of it being intervened, that it was probably escalating a little bit more than it should have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That body posture, right? That lean in, even the commentators noticed something like that. Thank you so much for thank you, Nikita, for speaking up, and thank you for the chats that you sent in. I really appreciate that. I'm going to share my screen again, and we're really going to pay attention right now. We're going to focus on the coaches, as I said, on us as coaches. What goes wrong and right with coaches during competition? So last week we showed you this, this card, and actually we gave you some homework on this. We asked you to fill out a Google form and tell us which of these coaches best represents yourself in behavior wise, right? And so right now in a minute, what we're gonna do is break out into groups, and we're gonna talk about this a little bit more. So this was the homework that we gave out. We said, look through the coach face pictures, identify one that best matches your coaching style, and share why with your breakout group. So we're not looking at sport specific coaches. We're not looking at level of coach. We're just looking at the behavior. If you identify with a certain behavior that coach is doing, tell us why. And here's our sharing code that we would like you to keep in mind is we want you to be honest. You know, don't be judgmental of yourself or your behaviors. Just take time right now to notice that, okay, yeah, I do this thing, and why do I do this thing, right? It's okay if you also pick the same picture as someone else when you're sharing. The most important thing here that I'd like to stress is to know why, to know your reason why you are like that coach, okay? And again, just focusing on that behavior. So we are gonna have, let's see, 5 minutes in our breakout rooms. And as soon as you get into your breakout room, go ahead and start sharing, you know, what coach you chose, and it can be multiple, what coach here you chose, and why you chose that coach. When we come back, we're gonna talk about 2 questions. We're gonna get 2 questions, and that's, what did you see from that coach that you chose? What behavior did you see? And what effect do these behaviors have on a athlete's outcome, right? On the athlete's performance, okay? So those are the 2 questions we're gonna ask when you come back. And in your groups, start thinking about them. What questions do we have before we break out? Awesome. Okay, you're gonna get 5 minutes. Thank you, Andy, for putting that poll up. As you're coming back from your breakout rooms, that we have a poll right now. We're asking for you to vote. We want to see which coach was it that you think best represents yourself. So we have coach 1 through 7 on that first option, and 8 through 15 on the second poll. So if you want to vote, and while you're voting, I'd like to hear from you. Why did you select that coach?
Becky Hammond in the early lead here.
Oh, really? So for those of you, thank you, Andy, Nate, for sharing that. So for those of you who selected coach 1, Becky Hammond, well, why did you select her? That's the image of, right? Let me actually put that back up on the screen so we can see it. Coach 1 right here, Becky Hammond. Why did we select her? That she has the fist right there. She's seems to be talking to 2 of her athletes. What were your thoughts?
Coach is even talking down than player. So coach look like more respect to player. So it looks good for a coach.
Thank you, Juan. Yeah. So yeah, it looks like she's, you know, showing respect to this player, right? Talking to him on the same level almost. What else? What kind of, Juan, maybe if I can call on you again here, what do you think that does for the player that she's speaking to?
I mean, player will more try hard for my coach.
Yeah.
Because because I see coach respect me, so I should more respect my coach.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that one. Yeah. So there's like that mutual respect that's set up there. What else? What else did people vote for? Because I can't see the poll.
I can
Lots
go.
of people voting for number 9.
Sure. Wade, if you want to share with us what coach you voted for, and then we'll hear from other people as well.
Okay, so I voted for 7 and 15. Being a skate mentor, we don't necessarily focus on the development of their skating, more towards development of their lives and careers. But when we do go skate, I'm in the fields with them. You know, we're skating together, having a good time. And number 15 is just me giving them pointers with certain tricks and stuff, and kind of like directing them when it comes to certain tricks.
That's awesome. And how does that kind of direction, again, going back to this question, how does that kind of effect of coaching, that behavior, have on your athlete's outcome?
Mentally, it helps them break down the trick and actually see the full picture, rather than just, thinking of the trick and just trying it without any real direction, because each trick is super different, and helping them break down the trick helps them understand what it is and how to execute it. And once they roll away, like, that excitement that they get hypes me up. I turn into coach number 3, So I see myself in a lot of these coaches, but none of the angry face ones, because that's not my vibes.
I love that. I really love that. How many of us, I just want to see in the chat, how many of us felt like, you know, maybe we could be multiple of these coaches in different instances or at different times? Go ahead and chat yes. I see some people saying yes in the chat. It's true, you know, we're not just this one coach all the time. We have different faces at different times. And to just notice that behavior, notice what is the scenario that brings out this coach face is super important. So thank you all for sharing, you know, which your coach faces with us. Again, it's really important, regardless of where you are, to think about, you know, how you can take all of this information that we're giving you right now and apply it to yourself and your life outside of this to help you be a more effective coach. And so just thinking through our behaviors and why we act in certain ways can really help us in life. Nate, Andy, Thomas, anything to add there about coach faces? Awesome. So let's talk about, I'm going to kick it over to Nate to talk a little bit more about some critical moments that we face in sports that might trigger some of these reactions from us.
Thanks, Coach Marty. So yeah, we've started this discussion to get you guys to start to think about what you kind of identify with as we showed you these coaches and what kind of really speaks to you. So great conversations, both on the mic and in the chat. The chat seems to be on fire today, but all of these coaches on these pictures were responding in some type of stress. Their response was that they were responding to some form of stress. And so as coaches, we want to make sure that we're in a good stress moment, right? Where we can harness the power of that good stress and really make sure that we're being intentional on focusing for outcomes. Remember that from back from CTI, we're always focusing for outcomes. It never leaves us. As coaches, we're planning for outcomes. And we're trying to make sure that we stay in a place where we can focus on them. And for our young people, whenever they experience stress, especially the bad stress moments during sports, they're out of their prefrontal cortex, which is not good for any of us, but definitely not for an athlete in the middle of a game. Well, we know that we need them to be able to think critically. We need them to make really good, quick decisions. And so whenever they dip into the bad stress moments, that amygdala overfloods their brain, hijacks their brain, and they're not able to think through their prefrontal cortex. And as we know about last week, when we talked about a percentage of good games, that not all games are created equally, neither are all moments. All moments are a little bit differently. And so here in just a second, so get ready to unmute or get ready to type, I'm going to ask you a question about those critical moments. I want you to share with us some ideas about what are the really critical moments in sports that can go from neutral stress into bad stress, or sometimes even good stress into bad stress. This can be about the sport that you play or that you coach, but it could also be about any sport that you know a lot about. I want you to think about those things. What are some of those moments that in that moment, the stress level can dip into the bad side of stress, and kids and coaches can maybe not be the best versions of themselves? So unmute yourself or right here into the chat. Let us know, what are some of those moments? Red cards. Yeah, in soccer, right? Getting that red card.
I have
students walking off the field.
Yeah, there was a scenario that played itself out in a very beyond stressful situation. In my first year of coaching track and field, it was a 4x400 relay, and my leadoff runner didn't finish their leg and literally walked off the track 300 meters into the race, leaving their teammates at the start line. How I responded in this situation was initially to tell the three girls waiting that there was still another heat after their initial race so that they would still run and was not to panic. Secondly, I had to go and find my co-coach and have them track down the runner who left the field. And then third, I had to pull a substitute runner out of the stands to come in and replace that runner. And all that had to happen within about 45 seconds.
Yeah. And so players' decisions sometimes can be a really critical moment when you're getting ready for a race or wrapping up a race. The chat seems to be on fire. Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to throw in something else. But there's a lot of like overtime being put in here, like losing an overtime game or getting ready to play an overtime game, getting fouled, getting hurt. These are all moments where things can go. That's a really good one right there. Parents, right? Aggressively yelling. These are all really, really critical moments. Looking for one more. If anybody's brave enough to unmute yourself, and there we go.
Yeah, I was thinking actually, and this is thinking back to the picture of the coach number 9. I was thinking a lot of times when either you're calling a player off the field onto the bench or a player's coming onto the bench, I feel like that's a critical time as well, because that feedback that you're given or whatever state that player in can either turn that good stress or that tension into bad stress depending on the reaction.
Yeah, there's a really critical moments. I even seen one ref miss calls, and I always tell a quick story of playing in a kickball tournament to raise like a fundraiser for somebody locally, and they needed me to umpire first base, and I made a close call, and literally it seemed like that entire team was in a bad stress moment about a fun kickball tournament and a bad call at first base, right? Like these can all be critical moments. Thank you guys so much for sharing. We're going to go through some of our lists here, some of the things that we think are critical moments. Can we get some of our lists here? So substitutions, right? What you guys were talking about, calling a player off and needing to replace them. Those can be really critical moments. Those overtime or close games. Blowouts can be a critical moment, right? Some teams can learn from those, or some teams can send them into bad stress whenever they're in the middle of a blowout. When you make a mistake, when they don't perform, when people are yelling, we had that in the chat about the parents yelling, and when they're called for an infraction, getting fouled, or when they're fouling themselves, right? These are all really critical moments, and we're going to use these moments. We're going to use talking about these moments to really think about it critically as a coach. How can we brainstorm ways, if we know that these are moments in our games, these are moments in our teams that can go from neutral stress or good stress into the bad stress, how can we change things? How can we think about them in a different perspective or a different way? So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to let you help us out with that. We're going to give you some work. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to brainstorm a couple of these critical moments. And we're going to give you some strategies that can be used. So you're going to be sent out to a couple of different rooms that we're going to put together. So we're going to have 18 different rooms, and each of you, your rooms are going to get a strategy. Your job is that once you get to that room is to take that strategy and think about, how can I use this strategy to create the safest place for the kids on my team? How can I use this in a way that doesn't allow the kids or myself to dip in to those bad stress moments? You're just going to brainstorm for about 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to come up with as many ideas as you possibly can. And then we're going to come back to the big group, and each group will have a spokesperson that will share with us exactly what you talked about. You're going to teach us about your strategy and the conversations that you had around your strategy. So groups 1 through 9, you're going to do strategies 1 through 9. So group 1, you're going to have the first one, separate the substitute from the mistake. Group 2 is going to have the second, 3, so on, all the way through 9. And when we get to group 10, if you're in group 10, you're going to start back at strategy 1. So group 10 will have strategy 1. Group 11 will have strategy 2. Group 12 will have strategy 3, all the way through group 18 having strategy 9. So again, when you get into that group, you'll have a pretty small group of people with you, probably 4 to 6 people. Just talk about this strategy and the most ways that you can use this during those critical moments to keep everyone into good stress moments. So what questions might we have before you send you out to your rooms?
So in our groups, are we talking about how we would implement this strategy? Are we acting it out, or what? How are we?
Yep. So you're just going to think of ways that you can use this, or ways that you can implement this with your team with this strategy. So separate the substitute from the mistake. What are ways that you can do that? What are ways that you can practice that and implement that with your team in competition, even in your just ways that you could use that for your sport or as many sports as they're represented in your room. Any other questions? So we'll make sure that we copy this and send it with the message that goes out for sending to the room. And then the trainers will hop in and out of rooms just to make sure that you guys know what strategies that you have. All right, so we're going to give you 10 minutes, I think is what we have here. Am I wrong on that? Somebody correct me. I think 10 minutes. So we're going to give you 10 minutes to go do this, and then we'll be right back to reteach us.
Jennifer. Oh my God.
Wait, but where's the cat?
Nope. The cat's too heavy to lift up this high here. This guy's still young.
Yeah, the cat's probably in the laundry basket back there.
Is that our new mascot?
Oh, there you go. Yes.
There we go. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Sounds
Cats
so happy.
matter. Cats are important.
Cats.
Okay.
That's matter.
Here.
Oh,
yeah,
he
she
does
sounds
that all the
thrilled.
time, y'all.
Big cat.
If you ever go to his house, it drives you insane.
Video. All right, lady.
All right, team. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, when you work out at home and if you do like a push-up, does your cat feel the need to walk under you?
You lost him at workout.
Yes. So I bought some bands recently, and yes, it'll come and just sit right on the band, wherever part of that band is on the ground, just sitting right there. And she's a good
Because the bands are not being used.
Yeah.
She's at least 75 pounds.
My cat likes to hang out with me while I'm trying to do planks. Rubs my head while I'm trying to do planks. I'm like,
That's
this
awesome.
is cool.
All right, team. Thank you, guys. It sounded like some awesome conversations. I know some people were a little stuck, but I think we helped get them unstuck. I hope that you had really good conversations. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to call out a strategy. Each trainer has a different strategy, so you'll hear some new voices here. And we want you to teach it to us. So if your group had this strategy, we want to hear what your conversations were about. So for me, I'm going to start us off. This is group 1 and group 10, yeah. Separate the substitute from the mistake. So either in chat or unmute. If you're brave enough, we want to hear from you. Tell us what you guys talked about when it comes to separating the substitute from the mistake.
Hello.
There we go.
So my group talked about like kind of taking out the player as the mistake happened. So then you can reflect about what happened, not in a way where you're tearing him down and bashing on him, but in an uplifting, supportive way. So it's like fresh in his mind about what he did. But again, it's not about like punishing him in the moment for that mistake. It's a way where you can reverse it. So the next time it happens, he can learn from it and then get back on the ball.
Love it. Any other conversations, team 1 or team 10?
Yeah, so we talked about how, like, let's say a player committed a foul, like a silly foul in a basketball game.
Yeah.
Talked about instead of just yelling at him or subbing him out, just bring him over and just talking to him, telling him, like, this is the mistake you made. Try to finish out the rest of this quarter or the next 2-3 minutes without fouling. And then after that, subbing him out with someone else.
That's really great. That's awesome, right? I think a lot of these strategies could even go together, right? Like the take 60 seconds to connect. Like a lot of these strategies can go together. Again, just one little tip, and then we'll move on to the next one if there's any other ones. But when we think about when we played sports, right? You'd have a foul, or you would do something wrong, and immediately your eyes went to the bench because you were waiting to be taken out of the game. And so creating a place where kids are willing to take safe risk, especially in competition. So some of our kids' competition may be a skill they're still working on, a skill they're still developing, something that's new to them. And so giving them the ability to know it's okay to take safe risk, it's okay to make mistakes, you're going to get a chance to try it again, is super important for coaches. So thank you, team 1 and team 10. We're going to toss it over to strategy number 2, which I think is Thomas, sorry.
All right, so get ready. Team 2 and Team 11, who had coach the bench, praise the play. So same format. If you want to unmute and share, or share in the chat box, let me know what you all talked about for coach the bench, praise the play. All right, so I love this one. I'll start talking here, and then if some things come up, we can jump in and mention it. But if we have any fight sports coaches, so boxing or MMA or wrestling, anything like that, get ready, because I'm at least going to call on you to nod or give me a thumbs up. But thinking about coaching the bench and praising the play, thinking about what we're trying to accomplish, and knowing sort of our brain research, what's actually happening when the play is going on and we're yelling out onto the court or onto the field or whatever it looks like. and trying to give instructions when we're in the heat of competition or gameplay, right? So our yelling may be sort of falling on deaf ears because at that moment we're sort of activated in another way and we're focusing a lot on the competition. So it's not to say that we can't learn lessons from these moments, but it's who's learning the lessons. So coaching the bench in the situation where the player on the bench is working out of share in the chat box, they're working on probably a specific part of their brain because they are out of the competition, right? And what part of the brain our bench players are probably more likely to be operating out of in that moment. And then our players on the court or on the field are probably operating somewhere else because they are in that moment. They're experiencing the contact and the adrenaline and all these different things. So making sure we know who is in the right space to learn the lessons and who is in the space that they maybe just need some other form of support. And for our fight coaches, let me know if you've had any of the experiences. I watch a bit of boxing when it comes on, sort of like the larger fights, and at times when you can hear sort of what coaches are yelling from the corners, you'd hear things, just techniques that they're trying to give. Keep them on your left, keep them moving to your left. And then it's like, it's clearly moving to the left, right? We're not really doing that well. And it's probably because we're so in the moment of somebody potentially punching us in the face, right? Or we just got punched in the face, that it's hard to process what is actually going on that isn't right in front of us. So making sure that we know we're going to share our thoughts and our voice and have folks hear it. Let's make sure it's the right people who are in the right part of their brain, operating out of the right part of their brain, again, that prefrontal cortex, that they're the ones getting this lesson, and the folks that are out there, we hit them at another time. I'll give a few more seconds for a share back if anybody has a story.
Are we supposed to be talking this or put it in the chat?
Both work. Did you put one in the chat?
No, no, but on that right there, I was in doing question number 2. And the way I reflect is me as a player. And everybody, whether you coaching basketball, baseball, whatever, your team knows the game, knows how to play, knows what to do, not to do through your coaching and different stuff and all like that. So believe me, like I was telling them, I still remember the ball that I pitched going over the fence. I relived that so many times in my life. You wouldn't believe it. I remember the time I tore my rotary cuff because I didn't exercise and stuff like that. So my feeling is on the court, believe me, when you make a mistake or a baseball field or whatever, you're scared to even go to the bench. You've lost the game or just whatever. So my emphasis is the coaching stays on the bench, and it comes during timeout, halftime, and all like that. I'd rather motivate my players through the mistakes and everything. They know it. So I need to get them back into the game and everything like that. Then you come to the bench, dugout, or whatever, and then and if it's real bad or something like that, while people are coming to the bench or something like that, I just call the play, hey, come here a minute, man. Let me just talk to you about something. And me and him have a nice little conversation of motivation and stuff. They know they made a mistake. Oh my gosh, like I said, gosh, do I remember that ball going over that field.
I love it. Yeah. So coach the bench with lessons and then support the players that are out on the field with that motivation. Right. Yeah. A great thing to consider. Awesome. I'm going to hand it off to Andy.
Hey team. So the next one we had was positive traditions, which we have talked about already today. What ideas for positive traditions do we have? And specifically, one way to think about this is that question that we asked before, which is how do positive traditions help support us in critical moments? So I can think of one just off the top of my head is like a cheer out of the huddle is a positive tradition that we have. And so what effect does that have on people? What other positive traditions did we talk about?
So I wasn't in that group, but I have a great positive tradition that comes out of the huddle. When we're done, it's hands in. Someone give me one word that describes today's practice. And it can get real deep. It can be like motivating or like, teamwork. And then some days, some kid just goes, ugh. So then we go, all right, on 3, 1, 2, 3, ugh. And it's kind of whatever the team needs. I really like it. because like if it's I coach wrestling, so if it's the practice before a match or something, it's usually a little deeper, and if we're kind of just in between matches, it's a little more lighthearted in a way to have fun after practice.
Excellent. Yeah. Traditions, not only do they support our togetherness, right? Everyone is saying that one word, but that really builds like player voice, that thing that we talk about, giving people the opportunity to have their voice be heard. Excellent. Love that tradition. Yeah, I'm going to pass to Nate to see how we want to best use the rest of this time.
Yeah, team, we're right on time or over time. Like our time is up is basically what I'm trying to say here. And so we're probably not going to have the time to finish going through these, but we really encourage you. I know that you guys are meeting as kind of regional teams to keep these conversations going. And if there's like one that you were a little stumped on, reach out to us and we can make sure that we make some time to talk about those. But, you know, taking 60 seconds to connect, right, is so important when especially we talked about it a while ago when we're separating the substitute from the mistake. But, you know, letting an assistant coach or letting a kid coach for a few seconds so you can connect with somebody, having a ritual mistake. We had one where a program said that after a mistake, they would just dust their shoulders off. They just get rid of that mistake and move on with the rest of their time. I had some great conversations about the role of a referee. It's such a critical piece that we think about in our programs that often we don't have a lot of control of, but if you do, having the referee help teach your sport instead of being something that can be in a bad stress with a loud a loud whistle or being called for a foul, playing when it matters, right? Allowing kids to get in there. They know whenever we've saved them for the last couple of minutes, or they know when we've saved them for the blowout, letting kids get their feet wet, letting them practice. One of our programs, I'm going to mess this up because I'm trying to run through it, did a 5 and 10. And so his starting team would go in there, get 10 points, and all the backups got to come in and get 5 points, and then back for the starting team. And so letting kids play when it matters. Letting kids call their own timeouts. That's one that I get really, really passionate about, and I could rant on, but, you know, if a kid hurts themselves, they hurt their ankle, they hurt their wrist, they hurt themselves, we stop the game and we allow the kids to come out. We should do the rest whenever they're experiencing some mental places that are not good. And then finally, the role of a parent. You know, parents can be this tool and this thing that's there that can get kids into bad stress. And so really rethinking critically, how can we use the role of a parent in a really positive manner, in a positive way. And in those groups, I shared the soccer story that was really great about lining the field with the parents to keep the ball in place so that people played more often and the parents were able to be used in a really great way. So here's what we're going to do. I know that we're over time, but if you can hang out with us for a couple more minutes, we want to give you 5 minutes of team time. We'll send you out to some larger groups, possibly. We'll let Marisol get us off to some groups. But let's send you out to some team time and just see what kind of takeaways that you're going to be taking away from today. Maybe if you didn't get to talk about yours, that'd be a great time for you to talk about. So we'll give you 5 minutes and we'll come back for some final instructions, a good waboo, and then get you out of here for the day. Coach Thomas is going to take us home. Thank you, guys. And I just wanted to, Marisol and I were just kind of talking about this, and like, this is brand new. Like, this organization and this team is doing something this organization has never done before, because never been forced into this world. And you guys have really practiced creating a safe space for all of our trainers. And like, even when we go overtime, you still are here, and you guys have allowed us to try on some new things and get better at them. And every time we get to do these with you, we get a little bit better, a little bit quicker. So we just want to say thank you from the training team for creating that space for us and allowing us some safe space to try on some safe risk and try some things on. So thank you for hanging out with us. Sorry that we went over time, but let's let Thomas bring us home.
So just some of the logistics of this, it looks like we'll be sending out feedback forms. Do we have the feedback form that we're sending in a link in the chat? I don't have the chat pulled up, so I don't know if it's there yet, but look for that and give us some feedback on more of this. This is sort of the first level of training that we've brought to you all. So a huge sort of undertaking by the training team here, Marisol, Nate, and Andy especially, and Ahada, and then maybe not on this call, but Jameson and some other folks. So again, big shout out to them and to you all for making it work, because again, the coaches and you all are the ones who make this training what it is. So give us feedback. Let us know how we can make that better to, again, improve. I don't know, are there any other announcements that we need to share about this, Marisol?
About the evaluation form?
Or anything else?
Yeah, I am sending the post-work Google form. So complete that post-work. You have to, we really need you to complete this in order to receive your level 4 SBYD certification. So that's what this was. That's what this healthy competition part 1 and 2 was all about. It was about getting you to that final level 4 SBYD certification level, that point. And so fill that out, and you'll receive that. So it's right there in the chat. You can just click on the link. Please click on it right now, so you can just pop.
Marty, so it looks like the permissions are blocked.
Okay.
So maybe just check the settings, and sometimes it says they have to be logged in with Up2Us Sports. Just unclick that. That might fix it for you.
Got
we'll
it.
get them fixed for us, friends. And it may create a new link for you too, Marisol. So we may have to resend out another link.
Yeah.
I did the same thing last week, friends.
So we will be sending out this post work, and we'll send out that evaluation survey for you all, so that all of that's cleared. One more thing that I'd like to share, and I didn't really tell the team about this, I guess, was, reach out for wellness. So we have Dr. Lavera Brown. She's the owner of Verity and Vision, and she's going to do some pro bono sessions for our Up2Us coaches, for you all. That means gratis, that means free. So email her at laverabrown15@gmail.com. Put Up2Us Sports Support in the subject line if you're looking to talk to somebody just about your wellness, anything that you're going through, or anything that you just you'd like to heal from, something like that you want to talk to a professional about. This woman, Dr. Lavera Brown, she comes to us from AHADA, our newest trainer. And so she's doing this for us. I feel like it's a really great resource and wanted to share that with you all. So write that down, but we'll put that in the email as well. But that's all I have here. So we can get a waboo then.
Yeah, waboo.
Let's get a waboo. Yeah. Thank you all for being here. Send yourself some love. Send everybody here some love. Can I get a waboo?
Wow.
Waboo.